Hello, everybody. Welcome to my podcast today. I have a special guest with me. He's the host of Locked On Astros and Back to the Bullpen. This is Brett, Htown Wheelhouse. Say hello.
Hey, what's up, Jay? How you doing, man? It's good to have you on. Thank you for inviting me. I'm honored to take part.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining me today. And I just wanted to discuss with you about how, well, we both obviously really love the Houston Astros. So I just want to discuss with you, like, what are your, like, outlooks? Like, how do you think this team is going to look compared to last year?
Well, I think, this team going in, the number one word, the most operable word, I think, is health. We know the personnel logjam in the infield. We know a little bit of the logjam in the outfield now. They've got an excess of both, which is a good problem to have. Um, so the calculus of how Joe figures that out, he's been given full autonomy of the roster. So Dana Brown says whatever Joe decides the lineup is, that's the lineup. And so, number one is going to come down to health. Last year, they saw a record number of injuries for any major league team in major league history. It was a kind of a second year in a row they dealt with a litany of injuries. I don't think that happens the third season in a row. Knock on wood, of course. But it's baseball, 162 games. You've got more pitchers than you've ever had. You've got more position players than you've ever had. So if health does become an issue, you have more men to step up. So number one priority is keep the guys on the field, keep them healthy. Once they're healthy, they can get into a rhythm, they can get into a routine. And guys like Isak Paredes, um, guys like Christian Walker, I think is going to be a lot more comfortable. Jeremy Pena coming off a career year. Jose Altuve looking to do better than he did last year. Jordan Alvarez healthy. Look, I'm not saying this team's going to win 95 games, but I think the outcome should be better and they should actually compete to try to be able to take back that AL West crown.
Yeah, of course. And we've made some signings this offseason. We got Ime, we got Kevin Biggio, who I don't know if he's gonna be on the team. We got Burrows from that trade with what's his name? I forgot his name. Uh Melton, Jacob Melton. And then I mean we've got some the same guys from last year. Like Alvarez is healthy, Pena, yeah, like you said, and then Hunter Brown could be contending for Cy Young this season. Like it's just crazy how like much can change. And then we traded away Dubon. So like I feel like, well, what do you think like the stats are gonna look like? Like, do you think like anyone's gonna have another career year, or like do you think anyone can contend for a major award this season?
Well, again, not to be redundant, but it all comes down to health and it all comes down to being on the field. Will Isak Paredes' hamstring hold up to where he can push 35 to 40 home runs? Will Jordan Alvarez? I mean, Jordan Alvarez has played 145 games plus 2 or 3 seasons. And so it's not like he can't do it. People act like he's never played that much. And it sounds like they're going to let him play left field a little bit more than they originally let on, which I think will be good for him offensively. Um, Mike Burrows, I think right now, if the regular season started tomorrow, Mike Burrows is your number two guy. He easily slots in. Emi's still trying to get his feet out, his feet under him. He's trying to get familiar with everything. I don't mind Emi even sliding into a fourth starter if you have Hunter Brown, who I think is going to contend for the Cy Young again this year. Mike Burrows, who I think is going to be one of the top pitchers in the league. He's just got the stuff. And then you have Christian Javier resurgent, I think, this year. Maybe he's not 2022 Javier, but coming in this year, he should have a strong year. He's further removed from any injuries he's had than Emi and then Spencer Arrighetti and then whoever they want to fill that sixth spot, whether it's Lance McCullers, whether it's Jason Alexander, who hasn't looked great in the spring so far, or someone like an AJ Blueball or even a Colton Gordon. Ting, I don't know, is going to factor in as a starter. He may factor in as a piggyback guy, the guy from San Francisco. But I I think statistically, you're going to see Brown and Burrows are going to be the 1-2 punch, and then Emi is going to be a pleasant surprise, I think, for a lot of people. But offensively speaking, this offense goes, I think, as Jordan Alvarez goes. And if everybody else follows behind that, Yanner Diaz has got to cut down a swing and miss. Jake Myers, will he hit 290 for a whole season? I don't know. But if he does, that will be a blessing in disguise. And then Cam Smith, can he figure it out at the plate? And Zach Cole, can he find that fire that he did when he first came up last year? So there are a lot of options. There are a lot of moving pieces, and we're really not going to know until you get about halfway through the first half of the season what kind of offense is going to be out there day in and day out.
Yeah, I agree with you. And then now we have a full season of Carlos Correa back. Like, I'm really excited about that.
Oh yeah,
And
and I totally left out Carlos Correa. I mean,
yeah,
you've got so many players, like I said, Christian Walker, Carlos Correa is going to be healthy, but Carlos Correa is a guy that you're going to want to give rest to because he does have a history of foot issues and all that stuff. Less of a concern at third, but yeah, Carlos Correa is definitely your emotional leader. He is your off the field leader, and he's back with the club that brought him up with the number one overall pick, and so you can't be mad at that story if you're a Houston fan.
yeah. And I think right now I don't want to see your opinion on this. For me, the two biggest storylines coming into the start of the season is can we get off to a hot start and when will we see Josh Hader back? What do you think about that?
Yeah, exactly. And what is the famous line? Oh, we're a slow starting team. That's what fans say. Or I say the Astros, they just start slow. Um, this year, it would be nice to get off to not a prototypical start in Houston and this offense take off. It would be nice to have the pitching and the hitting working together at the same time. Josh Hader is a little concerning to me because it's a continued lingering problem. It's in the shoulder, and shoulders are tricky. We saw Jake Myers struggle with the shoulder. Look, some guys have shoulder injuries and never come back from them. And a shoulder is literally one of the most autonomous injuries. In other words, you get a shoulder injury, I get a shoulder injury. Our bodies react totally different. And with as much gas that he throws, I think they're going to slow walk him. You do not need to rush him in. You've got Brian Abreu. You've got lefties in the bullpen. You've got a Brian King who can spot close for you, things like that. So you got arms that can manage it until he comes back. No need to rush him back. I don't want to see him. I wouldn't mind seeing him till mid-April or even early May, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, you don't want to rush him. And then last thing before we transition into our next segment, last year, not including 2020, was the first time we did not win the division since 2016. How do you think the Astros can get over that hump this season and beat the Mariners and maybe even the Rangers?
Well, I the Mariners added one bat. They added Brendan Donovan. They will have healthy pitchers this year, but they do still have guys coming off injuries as well. So it's going to come down to, I think, the West Sacramento Athletics. I mean, because that's where they're playing, right? Let's
Yeah,
give Sacramento their due. And I mean, they've got Wilson, they've got Kurtz, they got Mason Mill. I mean, they've got studs on that team,
and they
right?
traded away Mason Miller.
So say again.
They traded away Mason Miller.
Oh, that's right. That's right. I forgot. I'm sorry. Thank you. Thank you for that. Yeah, I was there thinking of that and thinking, wait, he's not with them anymore. I appreciate the correction. Um, but the A's are that team that really give the Astros fits. So again, not to be redundant, I think it comes down to health. And then, like Alex Bregman once told me famously, in an interview, it all comes down to execution. You just have to execute. I mean, you can have a game plan, you can have all the preparation, but when it comes to the game, you got to get in the box, you got to execute. Runners in scoring position was their Achilles heel. That needs to be their strength this year.
Yeah, and I agree. And I think that's a perfect end for the first segment. We're going to take a quick break and we will be right back. All right, welcome back to segment two here. I wanted to talk to you about the Houston Rockets. They're currently 37 and 22 in the Western Conference, third place. What do you think we need to do to change from last season's first round exit against the Warriors to get further into the playoffs now that we have Kevin Durant?
Well, Kevin Durant, I mean, obviously the KD era has started and is upon us, and I think everybody in Houston is stoked about that. But you have a glaring missing piece since the offseason of Fred Van Vliet, who is not there. We traded away our other point guards, our other guys up top of the key for KD, and now you're left with Fred Van Vliet. Then he tears his ACL, and you're like, what are you going to do now? And I think that right there is the biggest glaring whole because this Rockets team, much like last year, much like the year before, good solid 3 quarters will lead, but man, they will give up an 18-point lead like that. And it's not because KD isn't good. I mean, KD's playing the third most minutes, I think, of anybody in the NBA right now, and he's 37, right? So KD's pulling his weight. Alperen Şengün did get an all-star selection, but has been up and down, is very hot and cold. Reed Shepherd, his inconsistent playing time, I think, has led to a lot of inconsistent production. He'll be very spot on, an assassin from the 3 point line, and then he won't be able to hit the broadside of the barn for 2 or 3 games. So you have your inconsistency from a young guy that they're trying to bring up fast. Jabari Smith Jr., I think, is good and he's dangerous when he's out there. One of your guys that I think is a high ceiling guy is Ahmed Thompson. He is an elite defender. He's an athlete. He is learning more and more the game of basketball and getting better. But it's just clear to me when I watch this team, they've got talent, they've got players, they've got the coach. They're just missing that point guard. If Fred Van Vliet is on this team maybe has 12 losses total. I mean, this team is pushing what, the 37-22 right now. You give them 10 more wins, they would be 47 and what, 12, right? Or in 11.
Yeah.
I mean, this I'm horrible at math. But this team would clearly be top of the West. But man, if they got to compete with OKC and other teams, they're going to have to solve that point guard thing. And I don't know how you do that. They've already passed the NBA trade deadline. Can Fred Van Vliet come back late in the season when the playoffs get here? And if he can he build up enough time and strength and endurance to withstand the minutes of an NBA game? Because that's a lot for an aging body to take when you've been laid off pretty much all season long.
Yeah, and then we lost Steven Adams too, like a few months ago as
Yes,
well.
yes, another huge loss, Steven Adams. For yeah, huge. So yeah, and I mean, who would have thought that we were? I never thought in Houston we'd ever talk about Steven Adams being an integral part of a Rockets team, but he very much was when he went down. That was a huge loss. Great catch there.
Yeah, and then we started the season off with like four guys in our lineup starting at 6'11", but now we have not been able to have all those tall guys in the lineup because of his injury. I mean, it's not that big of a deal. Like, I mean, we still like Tari's been stepping up, Reed's been stepping up, Okogie's been minorly stepping up, but like it was huge to have him in the lineup, but now without his presence, like just him being on the bench, just cheering on like Fred Van Vliet, it's kind of like pushes us down a little bit, in my opinion.
Yeah, definitely. Okogie, every once in a while, I mean, he'll be in the starting lineup and he'll play the role, but again, it's consistency. And in the NBA, you're asking guys that aren't star frontline players to be star frontline players more often than not. And I think that's more difficult in the NBA. It's just like whenever we were watching Jalen Green grow up, Jalen Green took several years to really acclimate his game to the NBA. Why? Well, you watch his highlight reel. He's a human highlight reel in high school. He was just flying, driving, dunking on everybody. Well, when you get to the NBA, everybody can do that. So now you've got to play defense. You've got to have different aspects of your game. And so that's where I think, Ime worked with them really hard on that. I think his growth was stunted with Kevin Silas with him as the coach. But here we are. We are in the Ime Udoka era. We are here. This is Alperen Şengün's team. Here's my question. What would the Astros be like right now as a playoff contender had they traded away a couple key pieces and gone out and gotten Giannis from Milwaukee?
You said
I think
Astros, but I know what you
Giannis,
meant. I know what you meant. I know you meant to say Rockets, but yeah, Giannis would have been a huge addition for the team, especially like I said with Steven Adams going down. Like Giannis and like Sengun and then KD, those three would have been like
yes.
almost unstoppable, I think.
No, yeah, no, yeah. So the Rockets getting Giannis from the Bucks, I think, would have been huge. But obviously they didn't go do that. But we'll have to see. Once you get in the playoffs, I guess it's anybody's game. But if you don't have a point guard, it's going to be really, really hard to take that ring and take that finals trophy.
Yeah, and then one more thing before we go, I wanted to move on to the Texans. Obviously, they have a great young team too. CJ Stroud, Will Anderson, Tank Dell's going to come back from injury. But I wanted to talk to you about the Toro District that they announced earlier this year. It's going to be finished in 2029. What are your thoughts on that?
You know, I think it's a great idea. Now, being selfish in where I live, because I live on the south side of Houston, in between Houston and Galveston, kind of what we call the Bay Area, it's a little bit further for me. So I don't know how many trips I'm going to be taking to the Toro District, but I know my nieces and nephews who live in Bridgeland and go to Bridgeland High School. I mean, they're going to love it. They're big Texans fans. And, that Cypress area is growing. So, look, I mean, they found 83 acres. You definitely weren't going to find that in Houston. They're not going to blow up the Astrodome. So, the real money and the real revenue is found in these places. The Dallas Cowboys have successfully done this with their star complex. And every Dallas Cowboy fan I've ever talked to absolutely loves it. And I think that's what they're trying to replicate here in the Toro District. Good for the Texans. I mean, probably headed up by Hannah McNair. I call her the Queen of Houston. I think she's more the brains of the operation than Cal is. No offense to Cal.
Yeah, I agree. And then one final question for you. NRG Stadium's lease for the Texans will be ending in 2032. Do you think the Texans are going to renew the lease or find somewhere else to go outside of Houston?
Yeah, I mean, look, if you've got an 83-acre facility called the Toro District and there's more land out there, I mean, why wouldn't you move your team outside of Houston? I mean, the New York Jets don't even play in New York. They should be the New Jersey Jets. You know what I'm saying? And so you've got teams all over this landscape that aren't actually in the city or in the town. I mean, heck, we've got the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim, which I think is ridiculous. But yeah, look, as a Houston fan, selfishly close to NRG, I would not like it, but it makes sense if that's what they do to more fruitful pastures. Then you can create the super state of the art stadium. And then the Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo, it can become the home of that and supercross and ice capades or monster truck rallies, whatever you want to do in there. So yeah, I think they move outside of Houston. It just makes sense at this point.
Yeah, the landscape for our city when it comes to sports teams is going to be interesting in the next 10 years. I want to thank you so much, Brett, for joining me today. I really appreciate all your insight on the Rockets, Astros, and Texans. Thank you very much, Brett. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, man, thank you. You did an excellent job. Thank you for the questions. And you know what? Good luck to our teams the rest of the year because we know when Houston teams are successful, we're in a lot better mood.
Yeah, I agree. Thank y'all, everyone, so much for watching, and I'll catch y'all later. Peace out.